Welcome to Business and Beyond, the podcast where business leaders and big ideas meet real-world challenges. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of the BBB Serving Western Virginia. Each episode, we will bring you candid conversations, expert insights, and real-life stories to help you lead with purpose, build trust, and grow your business with confidence. Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Julie Wheeler, President and CEO of BBB Serving Western Virginia. On this episode, we're helping business leaders understand how data moves through their organization while also protecting it in ways that keep the business moving efficiently. I'm joined by Doug Turpin, co-founder and Chief Disruption Officer at Tyke Technologies. Hello, Doug. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes. So Tyke Technologies. Not all our listeners may be familiar with you and your background, so you want to give us a quick bio?
Sure. I'm Doug Turpin. I'm a co-founder and Chief Disruption Officer at Tyke Technologies. Tyke Technologies, we help organizations manage their cyber risk, modernize their infrastructure, and meet common standards. In a lot of cases, our clients are smaller organizations, let's say less than 200 users, but greater than 10. So it fits really well with our area and the size of the business.
Sure.
And they just need a lot of guidance in terms of IT. Sometimes they don't have IT internal at all.
Right. So what's your background?
My background, I've been in the industry for about 26 years. I was in the military prior to, which kind of fits in with cybersecurity because there are a lot of overlap in terms and terminology and the way and structure. My business partner, Dustin Barton, he's been in the industry for about 20 years. So we bring a lot of experience, and then we've spent the last 4 or 5 years just kind of gathering up more experience as we go.
Right. It was definitely ever evolving.
Yes.
Yeah, the needs are ever evolving.
Right.
Well, so why do you feel like it's so important that leaders understand how data moves through their organization, not just where you keep it, but, obviously everything we do is moving some piece of data.
I think that, the biggest piece that for a leader is that data protection is a leadership issue. It's a business risk issue. It's not just an IT problem.
Right.
So it's important for a leader to understand where their data rests, who's responsible for it, and how that data moves throughout the organization to understand what risks are there to the business.
Right. Data protection often gets framed as something that slows a business down. So, I think if we are putting locks on data or keeping it moving, do you think that perception's accurate, that it does slow us down? Or
in my experience, when you work with a lot of businesses, you see where the attempts at data protection do slow things down. But I think that stems from not understanding who's responsible for the data,
right?
How it's used, and then in a lot of cases, the processes that we put in place to govern that data is more cumbersome than actually it needs to be. Ideally, if you're
overprotect, but don't really accomplish what we think we're accomplishing.
We set up a bunch of rules, and maybe we set up some guardrails in place to protect that data, but we don't really think about the way that folks operate in a business environment.
Sure.
If you put a lot of roadblocks in place for someone, they're going to work around those roadblocks. So you need to really have an eye around structuring your data protection for making it easy for end users.
Right. Well, yeah, and end users, and to where you're not making their job harder.
Exactly.
You're just making it safer.
100% of the time, if their job is harder, people will find a way around
it
to make it easier for them.
Whether it's putting information in drawers that shouldn't be written down anywhere. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what are some of the biggest risks? Employees work with email, file sharing, messaging apps. What are some of the biggest risks that every employee is taking every time that they're working with data?
You run the risk of, say, for example, financial damage to an organization.
Okay.
The biggest one you see right now, I know you've talked about this a lot, phishing emails.
Oh, yeah.
Things where...
Phishing, smishing, BECs.
All that stuff.
Yes.
So it can impact the organization on a financial matter. It can be a competitive issue where trade secrets are leaked out into places where your folks don't want, your organization doesn't want it to go. In many cases, the time that a data leak occurs and the time you realize that it occurs is quite a long time.
Right.
So in the case of, say, a phishing email, that could be the average. I was just checking my numbers today. The average is about 200 days.
Wow, from the time the breach actually takes place.
So
before
somebody
you
just
can
kind
figure
of
it
sits there, and basically why these folks are lingering that long is the more information they can connect up with other
Sure.
customers, other sources of income, other
Right.
sources of secrets, other sources of data, they can kind of leapfrog into other organizations.
Right. What about ransomware? Is that the same kind of time frame, you
it's
think?
the same type of time frame. The time frame on all these is kind of adjusting to where you really have to kind of keep up, and it's kind of delves in a little bit into the cybersecurity too. But because of AI, the criminals and threat actors are getting much more intelligent and about how they do it. They can do A/B testing. They can say, given these 10 million people, these 10 million email addresses, give me a 3 to 5 emails that have a 20% success rate on somebody to click on this email, and you can go from there. But to extend that out further, what we're seeing is that vulnerabilities are being patched at the same pace. However, the threat actors are able to take advantage of the vulnerabilities much more quickly because of AI. So it used to be something like 2 to 3 months, and now it's like 1 to 2 days.
Wow. So AI is fighting AI, the vulnerability fixers and the finding the vulnerability. So let them duke it out, and we'll just sit back here and watch.
Correct.
Kind
of something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think whether it's physical security or IT security, we often feel like that's just creating friction and making it harder for us to do our jobs. How do you combat that, and how do you put systems in place that don't, to where employees don't feel like their job's being made harder?
I think just like in any other type of business project, you have to have buy-in from everybody. Employees they don't want to sink their company,
right?
For sure. They want to keep their jobs.
Not anyway.
Yeah, right. And leadership wants to make sure that everybody's following the instructions that they need to follow. In that case, I think that having leadership buy-in, making leaders understand that this isn't, it's not an exercise in IT security, it's an exercise in business protection, governance,
right?
That type of thing. It really brings it home to most people. What I found is, in a lot of cases, if you go at a project like that where you're doing data protection and you say, this is an IT project, IT is going to handle it, IT is going to run with it, you're going to get pushback from all the organizations, right? From the whole organization. So if you come down and say, these are the things we're doing to protect our business, these are the reasons why, and work with it as a group to come to a conclusion that works all the way around and checks all the boxes for the security protocols that you have in place.
So inclusivity and engagement, keep people,
In a lot of cases, it seems really silly. That seems super simple.
But it isn't, because I think the younger people have lived with IT and computers and forever. Those of us that have been around a while haven't always, close, but not yet. But so you kind of feel like it's in a silo, and changing that mindset, particularly in upper management, to realize that it's not its own thing. It has to be in everything, and everybody has to be part of it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think that, a lot of people in my industry, IT industry, they kind of miss the boat. They want to talk about the bells and whistles of it. They want to talk about the technical terms of it, when in reality it's an insurance policy. It's a procedure, just like any other. It's just like an HR policy or procedure. And that's
or financial
That's why
controls.
You kind of lose your guidance.
Sure. Yeah, if you try to make it something that it's not really. But so give me some examples of security controls that improve productivity instead of making life harder.
I think you've got least privilege access. Not everybody needs to have access to everything.
Yep.
You want to make sure that you have multi-factor authentication in place. You talk about that a lot.
Yep.
I've heard you
Absolutely.
talk about that a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
It's important, and a lot of folks.
Yes, it
are,
isn't just to do it because they tell me I'm doing it. It truly does protect you as well as the business.
And you want to make it more difficult, especially when you're combined with these phishing attacks that are designed to bypass multi-factor authentication. That just makes it much more difficult for a threat actor to take advantage of it. A lot of people don't like it.
Right, right.
I've got probably 50 or 60 multi-factor
yeah.
items in my personal
absolutely
multi-factor. But,
are you a believer in password vaults?
We recommend those for clients. We definitely, our antivirus goes out and tattles on folks that have spreadsheets of passwords and documents of passwords because that's the first thing that somebody's going to look for that compromises a computer. So password vaults are great for clients. Encryption is important on the computers. If you lose, or a phone or a mobile device, you'll lose. You lose a phone, you lose a laptop, you leave it in a cab, you leave it in a
right.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Secure sharing in terms of making sure that in a lot of cases, a lot of the sharing applications allow you to send out a share link that anybody with access to the link can get to that file. That's not a great way to do it because that anybody that has access to the link can get to it. Monitoring. So monitoring computers, and then make sure you have backup.
When you say monitoring, you're talking like applications that are doing monitoring, or?
In a lot of cases, you can do a lot of different things. What we like to do is kind of a layered approach where we're looking at the computers. So you're what they call enhanced data response and detection of antiviruses. So you've got a program on the computer that's looking for suspicious things. You monitoring your IT 365, your Office 365 environment, or your Google environment to make sure that things like you log in Chicago and Roanoke, well, that's physically impossible, so that should throw up an alert.
Sure.
A lot of businesses don't have that, but stretch it out all the way across. So you're monitoring email, you're monitoring computers, you're monitoring traffic on the network, and not just monitoring, but feeding that somewhere that it's being looked at,
reviewed,
so that results can happen prior to all your vendors getting an email from you with bad links in it, kind of
absolutely.
thing.
Where do you see that businesses will overcomplicate data protection? The ways that really don't help them. I mean, you can overcomplicate things and actually improve your risk or minimize your risk, but there are probably things you do that do the opposite.
I think the biggest thing for me that I see is unclear ownership. Like, who's responsible for this data?
Okay.
Because if the IT department is responsible for securing financial data, the IT department doesn't know about what's important in the financial data.
Sure.
So there needs to be an owner that knows what that data is at a very simple level. I think that's the biggest one. The other one I see is too many tools. So you don't know who owns the product or the information, but then you try to apply so many tools to it that it's extremely complex to see what you're actually doing to protect your data.
Right.
So because there's tons of tools out there, and salespeople are really, really good at selling their tools.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Promising that this is the next best thing ever.
And it's going to do it all for you. You're not going to do anything.
It'll be so easy. However, now you've got 7 of them. They have overlaps, and you're not really sure where they overlap or how they're configured.
Right.
Sometimes they can make it more complex to increase friction.
And actually confusion where people are not.
Right.
And you end up not being protected when you think you're 3 times over protected.
And then the other thing I think is trying to secure everything equally. Because you don't know who owns the data, you don't classify the data as, some things are more important or should be more secured than others in an organization. So making a one-size-fits-all security plan for all your data makes it really complicated, because now you're having to plug every potential hole in. Really, do we really need to secure your calendar? I don't know. It depends.
Right.
Is it the CEO's calendar, or is it just a conference room calendar? Now, some organizations might say, yes, it's everything. But then I think that makes it a difficult task for IT because you have so many owners that are ambiguous.
Right. Okay, so I'm got my business, and I'm coming to you. What do I need to do? What are prioritize for me? What types of data is it most important? How do I prioritize? How do I identify and prioritize what I need to protect, and then how to do it?
I think I would go customer data. If I'm going to organize data, customer data.
Okay.
That's how I make my money.
Yep.
And
Sure. And that's data that you don't want to share with your competitors.
Exactly.
Yep.
Financial data.
Okay.
And then HR. Those are the top three that if I was a business owner, I would want to take care of.
Okay.
So my customers, financial data, so vendors would fall into financial, and HR, my employees.
And if you had a product, maybe like engineering drawings or something, if
Those
you
types
were
of things would fall under customer. financial
okay,
too.
you would see that.
That's kind of what I'm seeing
Gotcha.
there, right?
Okay.
And then any kind of proprietary stuff, I guess you would
Right.
classify in one of those three categories. But that's going to cover the bulk of the things that make you money, that you owe money to.
Yeah, sure,
and then
exactly.
the things you need to protect.
Right.
If that
right.
makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Very good. Well, so employee behavior. How do you? We can have all the systems in the world, but if our employees are not following procedures, not following rules, you can figure out ways around most things. So how do you make sure that your employee behavior is actually enhancing your security and not undoing it?
The first piece of that is that you have to understand what they're trying to do. Okay. So there again, top leadership.
Right.
You have to if you're talking amongst yourselves, you know what the task is.
Right.
You can't go into that conversation with the plan already in place if you're an IT person. If you're a business leader and you have an IT or a technology person walking in the door and saying we're going to do this without listening to all the stakeholders, then I would say that that's a concern because they don't really know. Because your goal as my goal as a technologist is to make sure that safer is easier.
Right.
At least the technologies. That's how.
Yes, sure.
Because that's the path of least resistance. So you want to break that down, find out what your task, your conditions, your standards are as an organization, and then apply the technology to make that fit with. Now, the easiest thing for our employees to do is to be safe, rather than spending a lot of time trying to think of ways around the roadblocks that you put in place to make things more secure.
Yeah, and trying to convince them that it's actually easier when it's not.
Right,
so, yeah, make sure that it actually is.
Yeah.
Common everyday habits that employees have that puts the business at risk. I can probably name 5, but I'm going to let you do that.
Well, I think I've got 5 on here. Are sharing links, open sharing links, that's a big one for me. Forwarding files. Sensitive files especially.
Gotcha.
Weak authentication. I use the same password on everything, password reuse, that kind of thing. And then personal storage. See a lot of employees using their personal accounts. There again, you don't have ownership. You don't have visibility into what things are doing, or you don't have the proper tools for your employees to use to secure things safely. They're going to come up with a way to work around it. If I need to share a document and it's too hard to share a document securely, I'll just put it in my Dropbox or my Google, my personal, and that's a huge because you lose all visibility into that at that point.
How about the Post-it notes sitting on the keyboard?
Post-it notes on the keyboard. That's
the MFA is kind of
under the
stopped
keyboard.
A little bit of that. Yeah, under the keyboard, I guess is okay, right?
Yeah, no, not really. I think that folks have a hard time. They really have a challenge with passwords. That's where I think with your password vaults go a long ways too. But I think that it makes it really difficult for people in a lot of ways. Especially when they don't have guidance and they think, in a lot of cases, in the case of using personal storage, I have to do this. This is my job. You've given me no guidance, so this is the way that I decided I was going to do it. It's and it's not malicious usually.
Sure. Do you think it's important that you have a personal device use policy that a business does? Yeah.
We have a lot of conversations with business owners, and a lot of them don't want to have phones that are company phones, but that's really the way that you control your information. And there are ways that you can make a personal device secure for the business, but I definitely think it's less secure.
Right.
And it makes it a gray area. Again, what happens if I'm using my personal device and I have a personal device policy for the business? I bring your own device policy, and I put that secure document accidentally in the wrong Office 365 folder, and it's in my personal rather than my business folder.
Right.
And it happens to be comp plans for the entire organization. Or
Sure.
Like that,
Yeah. Now it's out there. So yeah. Well, so if a business has a data breach, and obviously the best of the best have had data breaches. I mean, the security in places on some of these things is amazing that they're actually able to work their way through it. What do you think usually goes wrong in how the data was moved through the organization? Is it typically like an employee error or lack of training or?
You can answer the question for me here.
Huh?
It is. In a lot of cases, it's employee error.
Okay.
I think it is a lack of training. But then in a lot of cases, too, I think it's poor visibility, that you don't understand what you have out there that's vulnerable. And in a lot of cases, we are always going to be the weakest link of humans.
We are human.
And, as time progresses, and we talked a little bit about AI, I think that what we're going to see is that that's going to get worse.
The level of sophistication that we're seeing in the target, where they're going after a particular person or a particular business, unbelievable what's happened in the last 6 months, and it's only going to get worse.
Definitely. I mean, now you don't really have to. It used to be if you were a threat actor, somebody that wanted to be malicious, you had to do a lot of research on your own. But now you can get a summary, just like I got a summary for this podcast on AI.
Sure, yeah.
It summarizes it rather nicely in my head, and it can generate a campaign for me, and it's all tailored and custom and beautiful.
Yep.
And there are not a lot of identifiers that we've trained our folks to use. Like, there's not a lot of bad grammar. They've shortened the links so they don't look weird.
Sure.
There's
the stuff that yes.
Yeah. So
the red flags are no longer red. Well, they're no longer there. They're still red flags, but in most of the stuff, they're not there anymore.
No, and I think that in a lot of cases too, still it's a lack of visibility and ownership. I think because protecting the data for a company is a leadership issue. We haven't identified the things we need to protect. So people are unsure, and you can't be 100% protected on everything all the time.
Well, no, you can't be. But I will go back to what I've started telling people is independently verify. Pick up the phone, dial a number that you know, that you look up, or some contact that you have. Do not rely on anything that comes to you electronically, even if it doesn't seem weird. If it is something that isn't, even if it's in your day-to-day stuff, independently verify everything. Talk to somebody. Talk to a human being.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for a long time, and in the past, you would go through and you would apply all the products that you need to protect the business. And when I say lack of visibility, what I mean is that we never really sat down and said, okay, well, these are the policies and procedures on paper that tie into all these things that we've applied for you as a managed services provider.
Right.
And then we never told the employees what the policies and procedures were. So a lot of what Tyke Technologies does is we go through, we put all the things that are in place that we need to protect the organization, depending on what other regulatory guidance they have. But we develop the policies and procedures. We talk about them. We train all the employees. We have the employees sign off on it. But I think that's where most organizations miss, is that there's a chunk of something missing there.
A disconnect, yeah.
And then if you never train your employees and you don't have documentation for it, you've got a big problem if you do have a data breach, because the auditors, in a lot of cases, we get called in after a data breach that's been managed by another vendor or internal IT. And those auditors are definitely expecting you to have trained your employees on everything.
Right.
Your breach policy, your notification policies, all those things. So it's really important, and I think that's where we miss.
Right, right. Okay, so businesses obviously are on a limited budget. So where were the first few areas, data protection, you'd prioritize? Tell a business they need to look at.
MFA. That's a pretty easy one. Yet pretty inexpensive. Yeah, most of them are free, or like free kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that reducing access, there again, visibility, ownership.
Right.
Not everybody needs to have access to everything. A lot of people get offended when they don't have access to something, but if it doesn't entail your job or your job doesn't entail it, you don't need access to it. Secure sharing. There's tons of services out there to securely share documents, whether it's email encryption or secure sharing, file sharing. There's probably 15 or 20 different secure file sharing alone products out there that are pretty inexpensive.
Right.
Backups, testing backups.
Okay.
Is a big thing.
Making sure you can restore, make sure they're in different places. They can't all be accessed.
Right. So, and then your recovery. So it's great to have backups, but if you don't know what's the recovery process, there again, you should have a policy in place that says this is how we recover from a disaster. This is our backup policy.
Exactly.
These are our things. If you don't,
absolutely. No, I was just going to say the Canvas breach that took place, where I guess they got to all of their backups. They had multiple places the stuff was backed up, and somehow they were able to worm their way and compromise all of them. How do you prevent something like that?
So typically, for our clients anyways, we recommend we'll do a local backup on site. That's quick recovery, right?
Sure.
15 minutes. You call me and you say, Doug, my server is encrypted with ransomware. Everybody's running around like the place is on fire. What do we do? I can spin the backup up locally within 15 or 20 minutes. Actually, we're kind of reducing that down to about 3 to 5 minutes now. We have cloud backups that are immutable. So if someone has access to the backup appliance, they cannot change the backups that are in the cloud. And we have them geographically separate, East Coast, West Coast.
Gotcha. Okay.
Clients that require them to be encrypted at rest for HIPAA compliance, that kind of thing, those are encrypted too, so you can't access them that way. And then we have safeguards to make sure that if a backup occurs and there are ransomware precursors that you can kind of see, that we'll get notified of those in the backup. So prior to ransomware actually encrypting anything, if there's anything there on a backup, we'll see. Our backups for our clients are about every hour. We also back up Office 365 because in Google Workspace, because if you look at their terms and conditions, they don't do that for you. And they're best efforts, so you really are kind of at their mercy on those types of things. So I think that's the way you mitigate that. I've seen large organizations that tried to home grow their geographically separate backups, so they're on the same network. They just move them around from place to place, and that doesn't work.
Right.
Exactly. That's what.
Exactly what
happens.
Yeah. Wow. Well, when data protection is working well, what kind of changes should you expect to see in your risk, your employee behavior, operations?
I think you have fewer surprises, which businesses like. Nobody likes uncertainty in business. We want to just keep on. We want to operate. We want to move forward. We don't want to take steps backward or stop production. Your decisions are faster because if you know who controls data, who governs that, what the safeguards are. Everybody's on the same page in terms of what they're supposed to do to protect data and what the company policies are. Your decisions go more quickly. You don't have to discuss this every time because it's literally
already there.
Process.
Yeah, it's already
defined. You've got a process in place. Having confidence that your recovery is going to work and work quickly is huge. I have worked with many folks that on the back end of a data breach, it's a year after the data breach, and they're still dealing with. And the conversation is we had backups, we had all these things, and here we are.
Yeah.
What do we do? And now it's like, okay, we know that we can recover quickly. We can recover files. We can recover whole computers, that kind of thing, very quickly and move forward.
I do think, though, going through a breach like that is kind of like having your house robbed. I think there is such a feeling of vulnerability and betrayal. I think part of the issue, even if you have everything in place and it's perfectly restorable, I think there's still an emotional component to it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that because there's so much uncertainty, and in a lot of cases you really don't know what happened until much later.
Right.
people feel guilty. They
Yeah,
feel
sure.
ashamed.
Like anything, yes.
you know?
Like when you become a victim of anything,
Right.
you do. That's that embarrassment of, oh my God, what could I have done
Yeah,
differently?
what can we have changed? And then there's a blame game too. So yeah, that's not great either.
Yeah, well, true.
Yeah.
Especially, I would think companies.
And I think that calmer operations overall kind of sums all that up.
Yes.
You want your operations and your organization to run smoothly around all parts of the company.
Right. Right. Okay, so now we've got some business owners that have religion. They now understand that this is something that's important to them. What can they do in the next 7 days? What steps can they take to protect their data without slowing their business down?
Okay, so what I would say is one of those priority data, the customer, the financial, or the HR, name an owner who owns it.
Okay.
Enable multi-factor authentication on that.
Good
It doesn't
stuff.
have to be all of it.
Yeah.
Identify the key data that's in there. So
Right.
somebody owns it. This is the data.
Yep.
This is MFA. Review sharing just to make sure that who has access to it. It's never a bad idea to know who
Right.
can see it.
And make sure stuff's getting backed up.
Test your backups.
Yep.
Tighten your access down.
Yep.
And then define how you're going to respond if you have an issue.
Okay, so now we got a plan.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's it.
Okay.
7 steps.
Very good. So now we're set. We're ready to go. That's all for this episode of Business and Beyond. Thank you for listening. And Doug, thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to keep this conversation going, so make sure to connect with us on social media and share your ideas for future topics or guests. And visit us online at bbb.org. Until next time, keep building with integrity, leading with trust, and taking your business beyond expectations. The BBB way.